When was the last time you went to the voting booth and believed that the candidate you were voting for was the best one for the job? Or did you just think the person was the best one you were given? Or did you not vote at all? America is on the decline. It is no longer the place of freedom it once was. It's no longer the place of prosperity that we all knew. Freedom of the press is ranked as 20th in the world, 23rd in infrastructure, which is essential for growth and job creation, 22nd in perceived corruption, 13th in reading, 25th in math, 17th in science, 34th in infant mortality, and 4th in the highest income inequality. However, a telling number is regulation. Balanced regulation is an indicator of good governance. Over-regulation is a sign of corruption in a nation. If one has studied the Europeans, the first thing one will think is that they must have more regulation than that of the US. They have regulation in green energy, healthcare, and other seemingly bizarre areas. According to research asking CEOs of multinational corporations, one would assume that they would rank these European nations as highly overregulated. The number one nation was India, followed by China, then Japan, and number 4 was the US. While numbers can be used and messed with by many people, let's look at some of the things the top overregulated nations have in common. China has a one-party system with many bribes by government officials. Although India and Japan have a multi-party system, they have had essentially one-party systems from their democratic inceptions due to party loyalty, and only recently have had opposing parties capable of taking on the main parties. America has a two-party system where to get elected, your campaign has to get a lot of money from rich people. There is a very narrow black and white binary dichotomy. 99% of incumbent representatives kept their seats until 2006, when public anger became high. Many retire to become lucrative corporate lobbyists afterwards. Corporations are considered people, the government can't regulate corporate spending in campaigns, and the public hatred and distrust of Congress is rising every year. Politicians are like diapers and should be changed often, both for the same reasons. During the Cold War, science, education, and infrastructure were considered essential war costs to win against the commies. Now that the Cold War has ended, we have the luxury to have candidates that consider these expenditures communism. We are now severely overregulated in areas we shouldn't be, and horribly underregulated in areas badly needed, like in banking and the environment. This overregulation gives fodder to the people who think all regulation is bad, while at least non-Euro Europe blasts past us for the title of the land of opportunity. Europe is very multi-partied. There are multiple voices and ideas of groups out there. In America, if you want to vote for a third party, you feel like you're throwing away your vote, and you aren't actually voting for that party, you're voting against the other party. What the population thinks is not correctly reflected by who gets elected. It's instead which party is more feared by voters. I would love the option to vote for Green or Social Democrat Party. My mom would love to be able to vote for Libertarian or the Constitution Party. But these parties tend to be who you vote for when you're so sick of the politics that neither of the major parties scare you enough to vote against one of them. So now we have a progressive president that most progressives consider moderate at best, and a GOP lineup full of crazy or ignored people. So how do we fix this? Telling people to just vote for third parties has done little to create real change. What we need is to reform elections so that all parties have the chance of winning. There is a system of voting that is used in Ireland and Australia, and now Tunisia and Egypt, called the preferential or ranked runoff voting. Instead of voting for one person, you instead rank your preferences. No longer will a vote for a third party be a waste. If they don't get the vote, your next choice now counts. The top two winners run against each other in a runoff poll, if no one candidate gets above 50%. There are not just two ways of thinking about things, there are many, but when there is only two allowed, the public debate can become narrowed and controlled. The Constitution fortunately allows most election reforms to occur at state level. It allows the state to decide how the elections are set up. Fairvote.org is a site dedicated to spreading information and setting up the preferential voting system so we can actually have a real voice in our nation and are not just voting for the person who scares us the least. Oakland, California and several other cities have tested it out already, but most people in the US aren't even aware of it. Most people I've explained it to, regardless of their political affiliation, have loved the idea. The only people who don't like the idea are parties currently in charge. So please mirror this video and contact fairvote.org to become involved in your state. Thank you.